So when we're discussing money supply, we give many reasons. We said that if banks are lending a lot of money, money supply will go up. And the bank lending can be controlled through reserve ratio. We said if the government is asking for reserve ratio, if central bank is asking reserve ratio to go up, then money supply can change. Similarly, we talked about how open market operation, which is buying and selling of securities, can change money supply. We talked about how when the government is selling bonds to people, money supply will go down, and when the government is buying bonds, money supply will go up, right? Then we also talked about open market operations, but we talked about deficit financing. If the government is running a deficit and they go to general public, then the money supply will be unchanged because somebody's deposit will go down and somebody else's deposit will go up. But if the government is basically doing deficit financing through going to commercial banks, we said money supply will go up. You need to know this discussion because a lot of MCQs come in from this discussion. And lastly, if you run into a current account surplus, more money comes into the economy and money supply will go up. Now, if you look at it from the diagram, guys, this is something which I wanted to talk about, is that on my x-axis, I have quantity of money. Okay, and on my y-axis, I have interest rates. And I'll talk about why do we have interest rate on the y-axis. And we say this, that the money supply is like this. It's fixed by the government. If, for example, the reserve ratio changes or so on, then the money supply can go up. For example, if the government decides to, if the central bank decides to lower reserve ratio, money supply can go up. But we made it perfectly inelastic, which means that the central bank decides how much money will be circulated into the economy. And when they change money supply, for example, it's going to be inelastic of going to the right. Okay, so that's how we look at our money supply. Now I'm going to talk about money demand, which is today's discussion, because if we make money demand and money supply, we should get ourselves equilibrium interest rate. But why do we get equilibrium interest rate? Why is the price of money is interest rates? So for that, we need to understand something called our liquidity preference theory, which basically means the demand for money. So the demand for money, we say, is liquidity preference. So I want to talk about first, what do we mean by liquidity preference? Why do people prefer to keep cash? Liquidity means cash, right? Why do people prefer to keep cash? And you want to buy goods and services, right? Is there any price that you pay when you keep money in your hands as cash? And the answer is you can earn interest on that, but you decide not to, which means the interest becomes my interest forgone will be my price of money or price of liquidity. I want to give you an example. Let's say I want to buy a car and I don't have money. Okay. If I want to buy a car and I don't have money, what will I do to get the money? And the answer is I may go and ask for somebody. Let's say I go to Kash and I say, Kash, I need cash for buying a car. He says, okay, fine. I give up my right to spend and I give it to you. And in return, you need to give me a price, which is interest. It's the same thing as, for example, if somebody owns an apartment and if I say, can I use your apartment? And he can say, yes, you can, and give me rent for that. Similarly, if somebody doesn't have cash, and if I use somebody else's cash, I need to pay interest. So interest for us is basically the price of money or liquidity. Make sense? And for us, basically, it's the opportunity cost of holding money in your hand is basically your interest rates. Got it? Now, when you look at why do people hold money, we say people hold money because of three reasons. The liquidity preference or preference to hold liquidity is because of transactionary purposes. I want you guys to write that. Transactionary purposes plus precautionary purposes plus speculative purposes. And we say all three of them combined together makes up your money demand. So transactionary plus precautionary plus speculative is the demand for money. And I'm going to talk about this in detail more, but we say that your transactionary uh, plus precautionary demand for money is also called active balances. Okay, active balances means money likely to be spent, while speculative demand is called idle balances, which means money less likely to be spent. So, what do we mean by this? Let's talk about this in detail. Money very likely to be spent. This means that you are keeping this money because you know that this will get spent. Very high probability of it getting spent. But speculative, there could be a possibility that it's not going to be spent. So the reason why you want to keep active balances is because the reasons are such that you want to sort of spend a large amount of it. Now, what is active balances? We say active balances are basically your transaction plus precautionary, and I wrote this here, is that when you're looking at transaction demand for money, we are basically using it or holding money balances to undertake day-to-day transactions. You know, every day I may need to buy grocery, or every day I may need to buy, bread, butter, or whatever, or may need to buy food items or any other items that I want to buy. To undertake those transactions, I may need to have some cash in my hand. So that's transaction demand for money. And we say transaction demand for money has a very direct relationship with your GDP, money GDP, which means that if the prices go up, or your income go up, or your wealth go up, the demand for this kind of money goes up because you undertake more transactions. Also, prices go up because money GDP means not accounting for money GDP means accounting not accounting for inflation, which means even if prices go up, you need more money to undertake transactions. So we say that transaction demand for money has a direct relationship with GDP. Also, this is a very important thought to understand, that the more your frequency of payment, guys, if Cedar gives me a payment every day, do you think I need to keep cash for transaction purposes? No, because I know that I don't need to go to the bank to get money, because I know every day at the end of the day I get money. So higher the frequency of payment, lower will be the demand for the goods, lower will be the demand for money, because you know this, you'll get cash very frequently. Got it? Does that make sense? So transaction demand for money basically means if you're keeping money for day and day. And if I ask you guys, if when you came to school, did you keep some cash in your pocket? And the answer is yes. Why? Because you may need to buy a bottle of water, you may buy food, or if the car doesn't show up, you may need to take public transport or call Kareem or whatever, Uber, and therefore you need to keep some cash for all those reasons, right? That's called transaction purposes. But what if sometimes you need to keep cash for precautionary purposes, which means for any unforeseen event or bargain? Like, for example, suddenly you may need to go to a doctor because you're not feeling well, or you flat tire, or any bargain, even any big bargain that you went to the mall and you saw sales is happening on Nike shoe. You might decide to buy a pair of sneakers. So for that kind of a bargain, you may want to keep some cash. And both these amounts, guys, if I ask you, do you think you will be keeping a large balance for this kind of demand? No, you may keep a very comfortable amount, but not huge balance. You don't want to keep like 100,000 rupees every day for your transactionary plus precautionary, because you know this is for day-to-day transactions. Make sense? Actually, what credit card has done is basically it has lowered the need for keeping cash for transactional purposes. That's what has happened with me. Now that I have credit card, I know I don't need to carry that much. Credit and debit cards have done that kind of a thing. So holding cash balances for that reason is not necessary anymore. Although current account, by the way, is linked to your debit card, which is again cash, almost cash. Remember, it's the narrow money. Money demand, not money supply, but money demand. Money demand can go down if people are using more credit cards. Yes. Got it? But debit cards are normally your current account, which is money. Because if you're keeping, normally saving accounts do not have a debit card. Your debit cards are from your current account. It's just like cash. And we include that in money demand. Okay, guys, we also say one more thing, guys. Transactional demand for money is very interest inelastic. What does interest inelastic mean? Which means that even though the interest rate may go up, even though the interest rate may go up, you may not demand, you may not cut down quantity too much, which means that it's not that responsive to a change in quantity or change in interest rates. Why is that so? Why do you think it's an interest inelastic demand that if the interest rate go up, people are not significantly cutting down how much cash they're holding? Very good. It's necessary spending. Good job. It's necessary spending. And that's why you can't really cut down that kind of cash need. You need it for your day-to-day transactions and precautionary reasons. And that's why, because it's necessary spending, you don't really cut down that quantity that much. Make sense? Are we good? Any questions? Okay. Guys, what about speculative demand for money? Let's talk about that. Are we going to move on? Guys, then comes your speculative demand for money. Speculative demand for money is when money is demanded to undertake financial transactions in bonds or shares or properties with the hope that the prices of these assets will fall in the future. For example, let's say if I believe that tomorrow the price of a share will go down. Now, in order to buy that share, I may want to keep cash in my hand to undertake that transaction. Make sense? So that is what we call when money is demanded to undertake financial transaction in bonds or shares and all that. We say this, that this is where we are buying assets because we believe the price will fall in the future. Now, I am keeping it for speculative purpose. Remember, speculative means you are a speculator. You are speculating that tomorrow price will fall, and that's why you want to keep a large amount of cash in your hand. So it's money that is less likely to be spent, because what if the price doesn't go down? Make sense? That's why we believe that this kind of a demand, which is basically when you're keeping money for these purposes, it's a very interest elastic demand. It has a very interest elastic. It's so difficult to read that because of the light, but it's interest elastic demand. You all with me? Does that make sense? Why is this interest elastic? And the answer is because if the interest rates suddenly go up, you will be more concerned about losing your interest rates. And secondly, also, so we see this that, like it's got a very elastic relationship. Does that make sense? Any questions?
So if the price of the asset, so for example, if I buy the stock right now and immediately the price goes up, if I sell it at that price, so won't I get more cash? How is that work?
If you kept your cash for that purposes.
Yeah, I'm saying what if the prices don't fall in the right?
Then you will go put your money back into the bank account, because you thought you will buy. A speculator only buys when the price is low and sells when the price is high. So if you were thinking price will go down and tomorrow price goes up, then you completely got it wrong. You will probably lost money because you could have earned interest rate on that money. And that's why it's got a very interest elastic relationship. If the interest rate goes up, not many people will be carrying that much cash. Because they'll be like, if the bank is giving such a good return, why keep the cash in your hand for a property or for something else? Make sense? Now, guys, combine this together. We say this that your demand for money, demand for money is like this. Demand for money is active plus idle balances. And we sometimes write MD or sometimes we write LP. LP for liquidity preference. About demand for money. And money supply is completely inelastic. And you get yourself equilibrium interest rate like R0. Okay, where money demand and money supply means. Now, if you want to increase interest rate, what will you do? If central bank wants to increase interest rates, I mean, LP is not in their control, but MS is in their control. Isn't that true? Money supply is in their control. So maybe they can reduce money supply. If they reduce money supply, the interest rate can go up. You get it? Does that make sense? Isn't that true? Guys, one more thing you need to understand is just that money supply is in your control. Money demand may not be in your control, right? So when you reduce money supply, for example, by reducing your bank lending, interest rate will go up, for example. Similarly, if you increase money supply, and we did this in AS, but we never knew this framework. We said whenever money supply goes up, your interest rate will go down. Because when the government or central bank is increasing money supply, people will have more cash available. Isn't that true? So the interest rate will fall. Any questions, guys? Yeah. Okay. I want to now talk about something which we did in AS economics. It was to do with, this diagram. Let me clean this up. We said this that when the price level go up, GDP goes down. Isn't that true? The AD curve analysis, we used to say AD is downward sloping. We said AD is downward sloping because of three reasons: your substitution effect, income effect, and the third one is interest rate effect. So I want to talk about interest rate effect because now we have the framework to discuss that. So when the price level goes up, guys, what do you think will happen to demand for money? Should people be demanding more money or should people be demanding less money? If things become expensive, why would they demand more money? They need more money to undertake the same transactions. Isn't that true? So can I say this? When the price level goes up, interest rate, the demand for money, LP, demand for money should go up. If demand for money goes up, guys, look at what happens. When the demand for money goes up, your interest rate will go up from R0 to R1, right? So interest rate should go up. And when the interest rate goes up, what happens as a result of interest rate going up? When the interest rate goes up, what happens to cost of borrowing? Cost of borrowing should go up and incentive to save will go up, which would mean consumption should fall, investment should fall, and therefore GDP should fall, which is exactly what happens when the price level went up, demand for money went up, interest rate went up, and therefore GDP went down. Number 4 is GDP going down. Does that make sense? Any questions? This comes a lot in MCQs, and that's why we need to know about the interest rate effect as well. I'm going to do MCQs a little later, but this is basically why is AD curve downward sloping? This is called interest rate effect. Are we good? Okay, I'm done, guys. That's it for today. Any questions from people online?